You want to know how to never get angry again, not how to manage anger, not how to hide anger, not how to calm down after you explode, but how to reach a place where someone can stand directly in front of you, insult you, disrespect you, even attempt to destroy your peace, and you feel nothing. No surge of rage, no need to defend yourself, no desire to retaliate, just silence, just control. Society teaches you that anger is natural. They tell you it's healthy to express it. They advise you to count to 10, take a deep breath, go for a walk, or talk about your feelings. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Most of what society teaches about anger is not designed to make you powerful. It is designed to make you manageable, because anger, in most cases, is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of loss of control. Every time you lose your temper, you are handing the remote control of your nervous system to someone else. Think about that carefully. A stranger on the internet says something disrespectful, your heart rate increases, your muscles tighten, your breathing becomes shallow. Your entire biological system changes because of words from someone you do not even respect. In that moment, you are no longer sovereign over yourself. You have become reactive. You have become predictable. You have become easy to manipulate. But there is another way to exist, a psychological architecture. A system of thinking that allows you to step outside the trap entirely. Once you understand it, insults stop feeling like attacks. They start feeling like experiments, and you become the observer. Phase 1, the trap of the trigger. Let's start with a simple question. Why do people get angry? Most people believe anger happens because someone crossed a line, someone insulted them, someone disrespected them, someone treated them unfairly. So anger feels justified. It feels like justice. But if you examine it carefully, something deeper is happening. Anger is rarely about the other person. Anger is about the ego defending a fragile identity. When someone insults you, your mind instantly asks a dangerous question: what if they're right? Even if the thought only exists for a fraction of a second, your ego senses the threat, and it responds with aggression. Not because you are strong, but because the ego is terrified of exposure. Think about the mechanics of an insult. An insult is not a weapon, it is an invitation, it is a test. The other person is asking a simple question: are you foolish enough to step down from your throne and fight with me in the mud? Most people say yes. They accept the invitation instantly. They argue, they defend themselves, they raise their voice. And the moment they do that, they lose. History gives us a perfect example. In the early 19th century, Napoleon Bonaparte, the Emperor of France, confronted one of his ministers, Charles Maurice de Talleyrand. Napoleon was furious. He shouted accusations. He insulted Talleyrand's intelligence. He questioned his loyalty. In front of the entire royal court, Napoleon exploded in rage, but Talleyrand did something extraordinary. He stood completely still. No anger, no defense, no reaction. He simply observed. When Napoleon finished his tirade and stormed out of the room, red-faced and breathless, Talleyrand turned calmly to the people around him and said, "What a pity that so great a man should be so ill-bred." In that moment, who held the power? The emperor screaming like a child, or the man watching him like a scientist observing a specimen? This is the first principle of emotional dominance. Reaction is submission. When you react emotionally, you elevate the other person. You tell them their words have the power to alter your biology. You give them influence over your nervous system. And once someone knows they can trigger you, they can predict you. Phase 2. the sovereign gap psychologist Viktor Frankl survived one of the darkest places in human history, the Nazi concentration camps. He lost his family, he lost his work, he lost nearly everything that made life recognizable. Yet during that time, he discovered a truth so powerful that it reshaped modern psychology. Between stimulus and response, there is a gap. Inside that gap lies your freedom. Most people never experience that gap. Someone insults them and their reaction happens instantly. Stimulus, response, no space between them. No reflection, no control. But if you train yourself to pause, even for a moment, something remarkable happens. You regain authorship over your behavior. Instead of reacting like an animal, you respond like a strategist. One of the easiest ways to expand this gap is to shift your perspective. Stop viewing attacks as personal. Start viewing them as data. Imagine a doctor examining a sick patient. If the patient coughs, the doctor does not take it personally. The doctor does not become angry. The doctor studies the symptom. In the same way, when someone lashes out at you, what you are witnessing is not strength. It is emotional instability. Their insult is not a weapon, it is a symptom. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, understood this deeply. He wrote in his private journal that people who act with cruelty or ignorance are simply expressing their own limitations. Their behavior is not about you, it is about the conditions of their mind. When someone insults you, they are offering you a contract. The contract says, "I will act like a fool and you will join me." The most powerful response is simple. Do not sign, observe. Phase 3. The illusion of control philosopher William Irvine describes something called the trichotomy of control. It divides life into 3 categories: things you control completely, things you control partially, and things you do not control at all. Anger often appears when we confuse these categories. You cannot control other people's opinions. You cannot control their emotions. You cannot control their behavior, but anger usually comes from believing you should be able to. So, when reality refuses to obey your expectations, frustration appears. The Stoics solved this problem by adopting a radical mindset. They stopped trying to control external events. Instead, they mastered their internal reactions. Consider the Roman statesman Cato the Younger. He was famous for his discipline and integrity, but he was also surrounded by enemies. One day, during a heated political confrontation, a rival walked up to Cato and spit directly in his face. Most people would react instantly. Violence, anger, retaliation. Cato did none of those things. He calmly wiped his face and said, "I will swear that those who claim you cannot use your mouth are mistaken." That was it. No rage, no escalation. The insult evaporated because Cato refused to acknowledge it as meaningful. The moment you say, "You made me angry," you surrender control of your inner world. You admit that your emotional state can be manipulated by external forces. But when you refuse to react, the provocation collapses under its own weight. Phase 4, mastering your physiology. Philosophy alone is not enough. Even if you understand these ideas intellectually, your body still reacts. Your heart races, your chest tightens. Your hands tremble. This is your nervous system activating the fight or flight response. Your brain believes you are in danger, and it floods your bloodstream with adrenaline. But modern neuroscience offers a simple tool to interrupt this reaction. A breathing pattern known as the physiological sigh, 2 short inhales through the nose, followed by a long, slow exhale. This pattern rapidly reduces stress by lowering carbon dioxide levels in the bloodstream. It sends a signal to your nervous system: the threat is over. When someone tries to provoke you, use this technique quietly. While they become louder, you become calmer. While their breathing becomes erratic, yours becomes slower. In the animal kingdom, prey animals panic. Predators move slowly. When you maintain physiological calm in the face of aggression, you communicate dominance without saying a word. And manipulators hate this because they cannot control someone who refuses to react. Phase 5, the economy of attention. Think of human interaction as an economy. Your attention is currency, your emotional stability is capital, your time is wealth. Every day, people attempt to extract small pieces of that wealth. Arguments, drama, provocations, they are emotional beggars asking for a reaction. When you get angry, you pay them. You hand over your focus, your energy, your peace. But powerful individuals treat their attention like an investment portfolio. They refuse to spend it on low-value situations. Julius Caesar demonstrated this mindset long before he became ruler of Rome. As a young man, he was captured by pirates. They demanded a ransom of 20 talents of silver. Caesar laughed. He told them they clearly did not understand who they had captured, and he insisted they raise the ransom to 50 talents. During his captivity, he behaved not like a prisoner, but like a guest. He read poetry to the pirates. He ordered them to be quiet when he wanted to sleep, and he calmly informed them that once he was released, he would return and crucify them. They thought he was joking. He was not. After his ransom was paid, Caesar assembled a fleet, hunted down the pirates, captured them, and carried out his promise. No anger, no theatrics, just action. That is the difference between rage and power. Anger screams, power acts. Phase 6. Psychological virus. There is a concept in psychoanalysis called projective identification. It describes what happens when someone cannot tolerate their own emotions. Instead of processing them internally, they attempt to project them onto someone else. They insult, they provoke, they attack, not because you deserve it, but because they are trying to offload their own psychological discomfort. Think of it like a virus. They want you to feel the anger, insecurity, or shame that they cannot manage. The moment you react emotionally, the virus spreads. You absorb their negativity. You carry it inside your own mind. But if you remain calm, the transfer fails. The virus has nowhere to go. Instead of anger, adopt a colder response. Clinical curiosity. Ask yourself, what kind of internal chaos must this person be experiencing to behave like this? The moment you ask that question, anger disappears. Because you cannot hate someone you view as psychologically unstable. You observe them the way a scientist observes a strange phenomenon. And the power dynamic shifts instantly. Phase 7. Psychological judo. Sometimes, however, you cannot remain silent. Sometimes the other person demands a response. This is where a powerful technique appears: asymmetrical agreement. Instead of defending yourself, agree with the accusation, but amplify it. If someone says, "You're arrogant," you respond calmly, "Yes, I focus intensely on my goals, and I'm comfortable prioritizing my own trajectory." If someone says, "You think you're better than everyone," you say, "I hold myself to standards that many people are not interested in pursuing." This response short, it's manipulation. Because the attacker expected resistance. Without resistance, their argument collapses. You have removed the emotional leverage. Phase 8. The death of ego. Ultimately, all of this comes down to one transformation: the quiet death of the ego. The ego demands respect. It demands validation. It demands recognition. And because of that, it becomes incredibly easy to manipulate. The more you care about how others perceive you, the more power you give them. Marcus Aurelius had a fascinating mental exercise. Whenever he encountered something luxurious or impressive, he reduced it to its simplest components. Expensive wine became fermented grapes. Imperial robes became dyed wool. He stripped away illusion. You can do the same with insults. When someone attacks you, what is actually happening? A human vocal cord vibrates. Sound waves move through the air. They reach your ears. That is the entire physical reality. Just vibrations. Just noise. Why should vibrating air control your emotions? When you see it this way, insults lose their power. They become insignificant. The final realization, once you begin practicing this mindset, something strange happens. You start seeing the world differently. You notice how easily people are manipulated, how quickly they react, how little control they have over their emotions, and you realize that most of society operates inside an invisible prison of reactions. But there is one final question you must face. When the noise of other people's opinions finally disappears, when insults stop affecting you, when no one can provoke you anymore, you are left alone with your own mind. And then a deeper question appears. Were you really angry at them? Or were you angry at yourself for allowing them access to your peace for so long? True power begins the moment you answer that question honestly, because the person who controls their own mind cannot be controlled by anyone else.